Mr. Check Your Temp. How you really feeling?
Yeah, man. Once again, man, it's 365 Never Ending Fight. I go by Mr. Check Your Temp. And I have my partner, man, Michael Storm. How you doing, brother?
Good, bro.
Stopping me, I'm watching you, watching me. Now I'm
Real quick, man, I did a little research on you. Gotta say that.
All right.
I found some cool stuff that I seen, man. First off, it said you've been in some Tyler Perry movies.
Right, yeah. I was in the Medea's family reunion to play.
Mm-hmm.
The play was it's probably the biggest production that he's done. You know, it's we're hearing this up to like 500 million now.
Okay. How far back was that?
I think it was 2002 to 2003. Yeah, we were on tour for a year. We did over 400 performances.
Okay. I see you did something with Nike, Adidas.
Right. Yeah, right.
Right. But what stuck out to me, man, what I thought was cool, man, was what they call it, a body double for Deion Sanders.
Right.
I think that was dope, man. Tell me a little bit about that, man, if you don't mind.
It was actually shot in Cincinnati, and
Okay.
I'm a lot bigger than Deion, and so that was kind of odd, you know. But I was being an extra. It was Deion's commercial. He had his own shoe with Nike, and so they picked me to be the body double. Deion is left-handed, I'm right-handed, you know, so
Okay.
I had the bat, you know, and they had a pitcher throwing, you know, balls and stuff, and I could play baseball and stuff like that, but it was kind of funny, but I'm a lot bigger, you know, but it was to showcase his shoe, you know, and it was shot on UC's campus, down on their football field.
Yeah. I think that was dope when I seen that, man.
Yeah,
I said, you know, I'm a big Deion fan, man. I like what he's
I
doing.
love Deion. Yeah.
Like what he doing in Colorado, man. I like what he doing. What I love about, you know, he coaching, but he been more of a father figure to them young men, man. And
Right.
that's the main thing that sticks out to me. A few more things I picked up on. You did some work with Procter & Gamble.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I started out modeling before I was with Tyler Perry, so you know a lot of people didn't know. That was really more so my background. I did a lot of that. I'd already done a few plays, you know, not on the level of where Tyler was.
Okay.
But Procter & Gamble, I did everything for them. You know, they kept me working on a regular basis.
Okay.
So, you know, shout out to Procter & Gamble. I really appreciate what they did, and they really helped launch my career, you know, with the Nike and everything. I think being out with them, you know, it puts you out the forefront, so people say, hey, who is that? And we can use that model.
Okay. But what brought us here today, man? I met you last night at a fashion show in honor of sickle cell anemia. My partner, man, Kenny, your manager. But I walked and I saw this book right here, Definition of Man, right? And everything I stand for is about fatherhood. It's about just being able to grow into a man. My background, grew up in a single parent household, so I struggled getting to where I'm at today, right? And I always say, a child with no structure becomes a struggling adult, right? And that's just that's my journey and everything that I tap into, man. But we're gonna dive into this book, man. When did you complete this? When did you finish writing this?
I finished it about 6 years ago. The publishing process was, you know, pretty difficult. I went through 3 different publishing companies before I settled on the one that finished the complete manuscript. There was some issues with that. They had an idea without doing the research like you did, you know, some of the people beforehand. So they didn't really understand who Tyler Perry was, you know, who I was and stuff like that. They had heard of him, but, you know, the people that I settled on, they had a better fit for me, I think.
Okay. We're going to dive into some questions, man. We're going to start off with the background inspiration of the book. Can you share a little bit about the background and how your background influenced your writing?
What the book basically encompasses is my life. You know, what you were talking about, coming up in a single parent household. I discussed that. I came up in a single parent household. You know, I do know my father, and I have a good relationship with him. However, coming up in a single parent household it affected me in many ways that didn't show up until I was put into positions, you know, where I had to, you know, these experiences it'll bring out, you know, certain weaknesses, you know, and strengths.
Gotta say that.
And so this is, you know, what I talk about. I wrote it specifically because, well, originally when I was writing it, you know, to tell somebody else, you know, kind of like the makeup of a man, you know, and we all try to explain to women what a man is, you know, and we try to put it in words, and there was no way that I could condense it into a sentence, you know, a paragraph. And so I had to write, you know, my experiences, you know, so that people could understand. And I said, let me continue to write this. And I talked with my publicist and my manager, and they said, keep writing, you know, because your life is exciting, the things that you've done and stuff like that. I worked in Cincinnati with an organization that my manager actually started called the Soldiers at War. And we worked in, you know, in the communities with tight-knit with, you know, the youth. And this helped to structure me, but still myself, I still had never been hurled into a position, you know, to really, you know, do certain things, you know, that require or a man is required to do. And so I put it in the book, you know, and to explain my life inside and outside of the entertainment industry.
I think that's dope, man. I know for what I do here in Cincinnati, man, I coach at-risk youth, right? And I coach, I have a father course, 365, Never in the Fight, Fatherhood Edition, right? And one thing I try to touch on is you never attach a dollar sign to your manhood, right? And the reason I say that is because a lot of young men, they become fathers, but if their pocket's not right, they feel inadequate, meaning that they can't provide nothing else. Because some mothers can make you feel, if you're not buying Pampers, etc. Not saying those things not important, but if your money funny, you don't have the confidence, right? But men got so much more to provide than just financial, right? Not saying financial is not important, right? It's very important. But I just wanted to add that, man, because it's just something I believe in. Because I grew up struggling in those ways by not having a father, not knowing where to pull from. When I became a father at 19, I just knew that it got to be loyalty. That's all I knew was to pull from, and not to repeat and make sure my son don't experience what I experienced. That's where I jumped off the porch at when it comes to fatherhood. But when I saw that book, man, I just wanted to know more about it. So we're gonna keep it rolling. I got another question for you. Were there specific events or experiences that shaped the themes in your book?
Yeah, like I said, it's a true story. It's you know, a lot of stuff. Most of the stuff is stuff that I went through, but I do have some examples of other people, other family members, you know what I'm saying, uncles, you know, and, you know, just a extended family and their experiences and things that I learned. Because sometimes you learn from, you know, witnessing other people, you know, as in the foreword of the book written by my manager, he's talking about the things that he learned, you know, from having siblings that were older than him and him being the youngest and stuff. And so I didn't really have that example, but I did have other people because I was the oldest, you know. And so when I came out, you know, and I'm in the world on my own as a man, you know, and then I'm seeing other things that people are going through that's similar, you know, that I can relate to, that I can empathize with, you know. So I talk about stuff like that because it's really important to know. And one thing that you had just said about not wanting your children to go through certain experiences. In my case, I wanted them to go through certain experiences because sometimes we think it's a bad thing, but we don't realize how it's actually shaping them. Because what I think a lot of children need today is they lack critical thinking. You know, in psychology they call it a functional fixedness. A functional fixedness is you got a screwdriver and you got a screw. You know, you got a flathead screwdriver and it's a Phillips head. And then you say, okay, it doesn't fit in there, you know. And so some people say, well, this won't work. So the functional fixedness is you have to be able to figure out it doesn't have to be a screwdriver necessarily. It might be something else that can fit, that could turn that screw so that you can go ahead and use it. And a lot of people would just give up automatically. And that's why we need certain situations where our children are going through things that are struggle because it forces them to think and to grow.
Improvise. Right,
exactly.
Right. I gotta say that. And the reason I say that, man, because the environments I grew in, right from Winters, and I moved my son to Mason because I could teach you about that concrete. right? Let's go out here where you can grow and experience an environment that represents more of the world, which is a melting pot, right? If you grow up on the block with a bunch of cats all day, you get comfortable just dealing with your own people. And then you find yourself in a room with a mixed race and you don't know how to conduct yourself, right? And you think you less inferior because what you done seen, right? So that's the reason when I say that's one of the approach that I used with my son, just being a young father. Like I said, I was 19, right? I was a 19-year-old father who really didn't know. I don't like to say there's no handbook to parenting. I used to say that, but it's a lot of examples. You know what I mean? So I can't really keep saying there's no handbook, right? Because I can learn from you, you learn from me, et cetera, right? So I just want to put that in the air, man. We're going to keep rolling. I got another question. How do you define man in the context of your book?
I can summarize it, but I don't want to. I want people to read the book because it's later in the book.
Okay.
And it's based on the preceding chapters.
Okay.
You know, so in each chapter, I give you just a piece of what the definition is. I've asked a lot of people, and one of the most common responses, you know, especially from women, you know, is when you say, what is a man? You know, what's the definition of a man? They say, a man take care of his responsibilities, you know what I'm saying? He provide, you know, this and that. And then I go, okay, you know, so that's a very shallow response, and that's just a part of it, you know. And in the book, I talk about certain things because there's certain things that I was doing when I was 12 years old, you know, that a man does as well. And but it didn't make me a man, you know. It was, these are components, you know, that are leading to the manhood that should be there. Things that you should develop at an early age, or you should just develop. You know, sometimes they develop at a later age, and some people, you know, they don't develop these things at all, and so then they wonder, you know, why they're struggling. You know, so just like what you were talking about, you know, saying you need that adversity, you know, saying, so that you can be able to improvise and say, hey, you know, saying, well, maybe I need to do this. Those are experiences, you know, that are covered in the 13 chapters of the book. So I don't want to kind of give it away because it's it's just a sentence. It's not just in one sense, it's actually just one word. Okay. You know, but it's in the book.
Okay, I understand. Yeah, we don't want to give it. We don't want to give it away. Yeah, so we just scratching the surface. A few questions. But first off, where can they find the book at?
It's on Amazon. You can go on Barnes and Nobles. Okay. You can pull it up. What this is? There is another. This is a complete, like, analysis. Okay. And breakdown of manhood, talking about the socioeconomic, you know, development. It's talking about the mental development. It talks about the biological development. It gets into, you know, even the science of the brain, what chemicals are being produced at what stage, you know, of the male. So from childhood to adulthood, it is talking about all of these different levels, you know, the social implications, everything, you know, that people don't get into. So when people ask, you know, what is a man, or they're giving their response, they don't cover those things. Right. And but as men, we could say it. You know, we all probably have, you know, different way of expressing it, you know, and, a way that we would say it. But and we could speak amongst other men, but when we're conferring to other people, other women, excuse me.
Right. But I'm gonna tell you something, man. One thing, you know, I have my hand in raising 5 boys, but I only got 1 DNA, right? And one thing I teach every young man I come across, one thing I teach my son, I learned a lot about myself in my bachelorhood. I mean, when I first lived by myself as a young man, right? A lot of cats jump off the porch and they shack up right away because a female can get her apartment versus a young man get his right away, right? Right. But one thing I teach my son is bachelorhood, right? You can learn a lot about yourself. And my motto, in my personal opinion, before you shack up with someone, get in a relationship, you have to learn learn about yourself first, right? Learn about yourself before you commit, right? Because one thing about relationships, you will lose a piece of yourself just by compromising, right? So God forbid if you find yourself into a toxic situation and you don't learn yourself as a young man, you know, you're gonna take a hit, right? Let's just say, for example, the way I see, the way I comprehend that is, right? Just jumping off the porch, you going from your mama house to a woman, you sharing a house with a young lady who's acting like your mother. The difference is she don't have the same concern and care. Her love is more conditional, right? So if you ain't acting a certain way, she gonna treat you a certain way. So your best bet is to, not saying you can't date, not saying you can't, coexist with the opposite sex. Not saying that. I'm just saying that you need to learn yourself as a young man before you call yourself trying to start a family at 20 years old and 21 years old and jump out there, because I'm a firm believer. I thank God for my younger years of bachelorhood because I learned so much about myself where when I did get married, when I did have these experiences, I knew at the end of the day, I could hold my own as a man. I don't have to deal and put up with, just for the simple fact, man. But that's just something I believe in, man. But we're gonna roll, man. We're gonna keep rolling, man. We're gonna keep rolling. Now, you could touch on this as much as you can without giving away this, the nitty gritty. What key themes do you explore in the definition of man?
Well, it's characters. Let's just talk about character.
Okay.
Character. There are several components to character, and I don't think that we delve into that enough. I think that society focuses too much on an idea, as opposed to what they think a man is, or what a woman is, and what they're supposed to be, and stuff like that. And nobody focuses on character.
Right.
Character has a lot to do with elements like integrity. What you were talking about, loyalty. Before, and stuff like that. You have people that are walking around that don't have integrity. They don't even know what integrity is.
Right.
They couldn't define it. And so they're different people at different times. So when you were talking about getting into relationships, and you were talking about compromise, you can't compromise if you don't know who you are. A lot of times you're not actually compromising, you're going with the flow, and then you become something else. You become altered at the altar when you decide to marry somebody who is really against your real views, but you never took time to find out what those were. So you don't have a real identity. That's what the book is really covering. It's going through this process that I was going through, not knowing exactly who I was. I had an idea, of what I wanted to be, not who I really was, because it hadn't been fleshed out of me. It's kind of like a story that's in you, and you have to flesh it out. You have to bring it out, and so certain situations will bring out the story and stuff like that. So being in a situation where I'm working with Tyler Perry and making a lot of money, you think that you're a man. You take those things away, and put you into a different element, you place in a different lot, and then you function differently because now you don't have the cash to do the things that you were doing before, or, everything is not as accessible. Women are not as accessible and stuff like that. People don't know who you are, so that changes the dynamic completely. And if you have integrity, it doesn't alter you too much where you're too lost, but if you don't, now this is a time where you might have to develop integrity, and this is what I'm talking about, late development.
I agree with that. I'm a piggyback. Oh shit, my bad. Thank y'all for watching 365 Never in a Fight. I go by Mr. Ya Temp. And everything we do around here, man, we bring awareness to sickle cell anemia, and we bring awareness to those who fight a chronic illness on an everyday basis, man. Y'all keep swinging. Yeah. We're gonna roll, man. What was your writing process like for this book?
The writing process was trying to figure out how to put my life experiences, personal experiences, and things that I've witnessed, other people go through. So some of it is not just my life; it's other people that I was around, and I saw things that they were going through. And also, what a lot of people don't know is I studied writing for 7 years. I wanted to learn. I didn't want to just be doing the Tyler Perry thing and be known for that stuff. I had my own ideas that I wanted to flesh out, and so I wanted to bring these to life. And so I started writing scripts, and the ideas were there, good ideas, you know, but the writing was terrible. And somebody, you know, I had professional people that were helping me, and they looked and they said, hey, you know, you need to read this book. You need to read this book. And so I actually sat down and trained myself like I was in college. I took these courses, you know, I did all the work books in the books that I was reading, and I learned how to write. So I structured it. It's like when you're reading the book, it's like in a movie. So you're gonna have this roller coaster of highs and stuff. I have plot points in here. I learned how to set up the plot points, and it's not just a basic form of. Even though it's kind of written like a 3-act screenplay, but there's about 40 plot points in there.
Okay.
You know, and a lot of people when they're writing off of 5 to 7 plot points. You know, Hollywood big films are written on 40 plot points, and that's kind of how I structured the book.
Okay. Now, do you encounter any challenges? Did you encounter any challenges while writing, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, there were certain things that I didn't want to talk about. In my personal life, I felt like sometimes I feel like people who are, you know, so-called celebrities or public figures, so to speak, they have, sometimes they're too personal, and sometimes they're not personal enough, you know, and so people feel like they're standoffish, they feel like they're better than other people, they're not real, or some people are just so out there that people say, well, you know, they're nuts. I don't want to be like that.
Right.
And I said, people are going to judge you regardless of what you present. And I said, I want to be honest because I'm actually trying to put something out that's more like a self-help book. You know, so people who are trying to, you know, young men who are trying to figure out who they are, or women who want to better understand men and how we think, and especially at different stages of our life. You know, a guy that's, you know, 17 years old is different when he's 25.
Exactly.
I talk about that. I talk about how the brain changes and how the decision-making process is different, and what chemicals are being produced in the brain. I talk about that in there. So it gets a little scientific. And then a man who is 37 years old doesn't make the same decisions as somebody who's 22. He might not be ready to get out and whoop somebody for his girl, you know, because now he's got responsibilities. He's got a mortgage. You know, this is different. You know, so, but there was also things about myself. And I said, do I want to share, you know, these things with people? And I said, I think I need to be a little bit more transparent, you know, to make myself a real person, you know, for people, because I am a real person.
Right.
So I need to talk about real things. And so I do expose some things in the book, you know, personally about myself, so that people can say, oh, okay, wow, I didn't know that, you know, why, they might say, hey, I didn't want to know that, but I want you to know because there's a reason. When you get to the end of the book, you know, saying you can be able to put everything together and say, oh, now I understand. That's a full definition of a man. You can't take pieces out just because you want to look a certain way for people, because it doesn't mean that they're still going to draw that same conclusion.
Right. So a question. I'm sure you're familiar with certain rappers, for Dirk, King Von, rest in peace, FBG Duck, right? And the reason I'm naming these names, right, because when I'm inside 2020 and I'm coaching these young brothers that's locked up right now, these are the names that they look up to, right? How do you look at that as a young man who made it out of these environments that we fight to make it out of, but then you find yourself getting tricked out of your position once you didn't cross the threshold? Now you got the money, the fame. How can a young man find himself in that situation like that? How can they find themselves lined up in that way?
Well, first of all, one of the things that I learned was when I started modeling, I learned what the word model actually meant. And the word model, you know, a lot of people think that if you're a model, oh, you're beautiful, you know, and that's not what it actually means. It means ideal, you know. So ideal is, you know, this is a person who would be ideal for this commercial. This person would be ideal for this look that we're trying to present on a couture runway, you know. So you have different looks. You know, you got people who look funny, people who look mean, you know what I'm saying, people who look beautiful, you know, and so it's ideal. When people are placing other people, you know, the rappers that you mentioned, when they're putting there, these are ideals, you know, and what it's saying to them is your foundation is weak. Because you're trying to build off of somebody else's foundation and looking at them as the ideal, you know, person for you because of what? You know, popularity, public, you know, view and stuff like that.
Right.
But that's why in my book I talk about myself in detail, you know, so, you know, if there were people that were looking at me as just a celebrity and say, I want to be just like him, you know what I'm saying? I want to be, you know, women chasing after me and be, you know, the guy in the play and stuff, you know, that the women are after and stuff. You know, but when you see the real person, you know, that's the thing that makes you think.
Yeah.
You have to have substance, and that's the key to the book. You know, substance is what makes a person.
Exactly.
You don't know who these rappers are that you're talking about because you don't know what their real substance is, what their weaknesses are, what their strengths are, you know, how they came to be, or is this just an image? It's an ideal.
Right. I do agree, man. I do agree. Another question. How long did it take you to complete this book?
3 months.
3 months.
3 months for the initial write. After that, I had to go back and, you know, I was proofreading it, you know, and I said there were things that I want to expand on. Some things I maybe was too windy about, you know, and I wanted to condense that. So the initial writing process is 3 months, but I had a format. Like I said, I was using the format to write, you know, like Hollywood films.
Okay.
You know, and so that was the basis.
Okay. What has been the most surprising response to your book so far?
You know, it's funny that you say that because up until last night, I didn't have surprising responses, but last night I had a very surprising response from a woman who looked at the title. You know, it was a woman, she said, well, she started laughing. And she was like, she looked over me, you know, and I get why she was laughing. And I didn't think it was appropriate, but I kind of understand why, because I think she was looking at me again. We're talking about an ideal, you know what I'm saying? And she was looking at me. It's like, oh, the definition of man, like you the definition of man or something. Like she didn't say that. She was just laughing the entire time.
Looking at the shell.
And I was sitting there and I was going, but I don't think you get it, you know. And I didn't get to explain to her what I'm actually talking about, you know. So that was the most surprising response, because I think in her mind, she's thinking that this is some machoism, some you know, this bravado that I'm presenting, that it's about me and I'm the definition of man and what a man should be and stuff, you know. And it's not. It's much more broad.
You know what? When I seen it, right? You heard what I said. I don't know if you heard. No. Kenny heard it, right? First thing I asked you, can we sit down? Right? I said, do you mind if I, you know, we can chop it up over the book? Because that's what when I got from it, I got the core from it. Right? Of course I would, you know, it just what it is. But I got a phrase, not a phrase, I guess it'd be a statement. I don't know. Just, I want your opinion on it. And it's just something I believe in. This is my personal opinion, and I can take the criticism, have it lay, right? My motto is, a woman fall in love with the image of a man, not the core of a man. Right? What that mean? What that mean to you?
Yeah, the core man would be what we would talk. What I said before, the substance, what makes him so. You know, so you know, there's this theory, you know, of what makes things so. The theory of substance and accidents. So you could see, you know, that there's a circle. You could see a balloon. You know, what makes it so? The things that are inside of it. You know, say we get to see shapes and colors and stuff, but how are they actually developed? So when you're looking at a person, you know, there's what makes them so, you know, so what makes them the type of person that's flamboyant, you know, what makes them an introvert and they're quiet, you know, or the type of person that's aggressive, you know, there are these things. This is substance. You know, I talk about the substance of us, especially at different stages, because there are certain things that, you know, make men more aggressive. We're known to be more aggressive, and people just talk about the testosterone, but it's more than that. There's chemicals in the brain that the brain is producing that makes, you know, that medulla oblongata of the brain produce more testosterone to make you more aggressive, but it's preparing you for something. Right. It's developing you for a reason that women, it may not be necessary, but for men it is. And this is going to it's going to shape your identity. So substance.
That's why, that's one of the things that I kind of touch on when I do my little sad podcast and my sad little videos. I really believe in that. Just the what I learned through my bachelorhood over the years, right? And of course, this don't fit every woman. I don't want to make it seem like all women, because I'd be a bold-faced lie, right?
Right.
But what I've learned is some women fall in love with the image, not the core, right? The core get the pushback, right? And even with men, my personal opinion, I believe men fall in love with the core of a woman, not the image of a woman.
Both sexes are guilty of that. There's a woman that I like to watch on social media, and she talks about that. Especially, she talks about it from the women's perspective, and she said that women are, they become engrossed in that, in these images. But theirs is a little bit more complex. As men, we tend to be more carnal. We're looking, at, the physicalities and stuff. As you become a little older, you start to recognize what parts are more important. Initially, the first part that's more important is the physicality. You know what I'm saying? You start saying,
That's
hey,
what grab you.
yeah, she got the apple, bottom, this is, what I need and stuff like that. And that's not what you need.
Right.
That's what you want. The thing that you need, is a succor, a help. So these things are different.
I agree. I just want to put that in the air, man. Whoever follow on. But I just want to put that in the air. I got another one, right? How do you hope your book impact readers' understanding of masculinity?
I want them to recognize that it's not something that society has deemed as masculine. People start to use masculinity in negative ways. They say, he's too aggressive, and this is, he's using his masculinity to control you, and things like that. There are elements and components of that should not be analyzed too much, especially if you're not a man, because you don't know what they're for. Right. That's like us trying to sit up here and define what a woman is. I don't think that's right, because I have no idea. That there's certain things that I can hypothesize, about women, but there's no way that I can be sure about that, because I can never be a woman. Right. So if you can't be a man, you shouldn't be, taking these things and saying that this is, the positive and this is the negative. Those things, especially in different situations and at different times of that man's life, sometimes they have to be relevant.
You gotta say that. So, have you received any feedback that particularly resonates with you?
Yeah. I received my manager's wife read the book, and I got a lot of positive feedback. Just in my conversations with my manager and his wife. My manager in particular, he actually helped me to see the book for what it really was, because originally when I wrote it, I was trying to get it out of my chest. For some reason, I felt like, the Most High put on my spirit to write this for whatever reason. And I didn't understand it. I understand it better now, because I didn't see what it actually was. It wasn't just me bearing my soul. It was for me to recognize my development, my growth. And when people read it, there's going to be similar situations, that other guys have, went through and stuff like that. A lot of them, they're going to resonate with a lot of different guys, a lot of men. And we're going to be able to say, oh, wow, yeah, I went through that too. Oh, and that's why, saying, oh, that's why I was thinking like that. Or I felt that. I can empathize, so we can empathize, as men, and not just sympathize. Women will be able to sympathize, not empathize, because you can't be a man, but you can sympathize because you can say, hey, I have a son, and this makes sense on why he was acting like that. Because I'm going to do some stuff in there that some people might just say is, for lack of a better word, is stupid. but I'm in phases. I'm
Right.
developing, you know.
Yeah.
So I think my manager was the one that helped me to realize what it really was, because it wasn't just, it's not for me, it's for everybody else, and they'll be able to see it.
Gotta say that. How do you see your work fitting into the current conversations about gender and identity?
I think it's going to be, because of where the world is today, I think it's going to be controversial. I think it's going to enlighten a lot of people. I like where it sits, because it's not going to be so controversial where people are going to say, get that off the shelves.
Right.
You know, we're not, you know, I don't think it's like that. I just think that a lot of people are so-called experts, you know, are speaking on things that they're not really fluent in, you know. So I think this is going to open up dialogue for other people to get involved and start saying, yeah, we seriously need to talk about, especially in the black community, because the stuff that I'm talking about in there, a lot of people are going to be able to resonate, having a family like my background, you know, saying people are in the streets and stuff like that, and then having people in my family that are college educated, you know, that are, you know, so you're talking about different, you know, levels, you know, of life and different backgrounds.
Gotta say that. What role do you believe literature plays in shaping societal views on masculinity?
Well, I don't know if it's just masculinity. I think, you know, literature plays a role in shaping a lot of different things. So I haven't seen a lot of books. There's one book in particular that I did see, and I didn't read the book. I listened to the author of the book and what they were saying about it, and I was very disappointed because the author of the book is someone that, you know, I have been watching their career for a while, and the things that they were saying seemed like they were just points to be driven to appeal to women, and they were appealing to women, and then there were other men jumping on the bandwagon that were following with that, and I said, that's wrong, because that's not even a man. They were saying whatever it was that a woman wanted to hear, and you know, you shouldn't do that, because women are very intelligent, you know, and you know, most women, you know, saying in my opinion, are smarter than men because of their experiences and because of their emotional intelligence. We're kind of late, you know, getting to the party, you know, saying in development, you know. So when you say things like that, you know, you're just going along with what you think is the status quo to please the woman, you know, so you could, for whatever advantages. And then you start to realize, oh, she's intelligent. So now I'm sitting up here and I pretended to be this. And she's sitting up here saying, well, this is it? You know, like you're like a book I read, you know, and women need more than that. You know, so you have to be authentic, you know what I'm saying? And you have to have substance. And substance is something that everybody is not going to have the exact same substance.
Right.
That's what fascinates women, substance, you know, and, you know, whether they, you know, but most women know it, you know, but some women, they don't know that. And then when they get with people that are appealing to an ideal, you know, because they were trying to impress the woman, it'll eventually come to the surface.
That's why I say, man, the power of words, man. A lot of people don't take the responsibility of the words that roll off their tongue, man. You know, I have a shirt that don't let your tongue be your shovel, right?
That's good.
Words are very, very powerful, and some people just let them flow freely. As I like to say, everything that rests on your forehead shouldn't come out your mouth, right? You should think before you speak. I'm a firm believer, because it's easy to find somebody who shares the same ideology or theory as you and run with it, right?
And regurgitate what you've heard without full understanding. You know, because I hear people use quotes all the time that are not, you know, exact quotes, and I go, did you actually think about what it is you said? You know, it's not a good thing.
Question. Since y'all being nosy, do something for me. As y'all can see, we have merch for sale that supports this channel. So we got your famous "Don't Let Your Tongue Be a Shovel" sweaters. We got your famous "Part Me, I'm Mood Swinging." So do something worth being done, man. And go to 365neverinthefight.com and cop you one. Appreciate you. Yeah. Are there any contemporary authors or thinkers whose work you think complements or contrasts with your book?
Yeah, I'm just not going to mention that that particular person, because it's somebody that I admire. in the entertainment world, and but they wrote a book, and like I said, I never even got into reading it, just from hearing, you know, the expose on it when he was doing the interview. I was disappointed. I was extremely disappointed, and I think it's. I'm sure, without reading it, that it's going to contrast what I'm talking about, because I'm delving more into the subject of what a man actually is. I'm talking about the substance,
Right.
you know, of what makes a man, what makes him so. And the things that I heard before, I was going, well, that sounds like you're just trying to get people to buy the book because of who you are, and you're appealing to women and stuff like that. And we don't need to do that. You know, I think we have a problem. Especially in the black community, you know, with the males, about being males, about being men, you know, standing up, and it's coming out. It's coming to the surface, and we're being criticized, but we're being criticized because we're not being real, you know,
Right.
with ourselves. We need to recognize, like you said before, in your bachelorhood, you started to learn things about yourself. And we're sitting up here appealing to these ideals and what we think that a woman wants, and we come out and we dress a certain way, or we act a certain way. So you're flaunting a facade,
Right.
you know, and you start to get this security because it's successful for a moment. You know what I'm saying? You want to run around and you want to be like, oh, the modern day Tupac, you know, and you say, yeah, you know, the women loving it. You know what I'm saying? Man, do you realize, look, I'm paid and this and that, stuff like that. But then when you get exposed because you're taken out of that element, you know, or the woman says, okay, well, this is really, you know, it was fun.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You know, so it's not really the husband material that I'm talking about. You go,
Yeah.
but I can change.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it's too late. You know, you got to be real with yourself. And you also don't want to be not just with dealing with women, but in society. You're talking about, you know, jobs. You know, there are people, you know, that are dependent on you to have a certain, you know, type of behavior. It's good that you're a hustler, you know what I'm saying? But they want to know that you have the intellectual, you know, ability to be able to produce what it is that you're talking about, and not
Yeah.
just be about talking, you know. And a lot of people are just an ideal, you know, and it's because they have not delved enough into themselves to find out that they're actually, you know what I'm saying, very, you know, prodigal people, you know what I'm saying, or they're very intelligent, you know, and or, you know what I'm saying, or you lack something, you know what I'm saying. And if you don't deal with the thing that it is that you're lacking, it could be one of the most critical moments, a time that you really need to be able to produce something that you said you had, or you said you could do, and now you can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree 1,000. But that's why I say, like, this day and age, man, we living in a cult-like society. Everybody got a mic, right? Everybody got a theory. The sad part about it is, you know, if you attach yourself to the wrong theory, you know, you could find yourself hitting the brick wall. You know, but, you know, like I say, man, words is powerful, man. You know, and I let people know, man, you got to do your research, find out, work on yourself, man, and understand yourself as a human being, as a man. You know, I speak to nothing but men. I mean, I can't help. It is what it is. But we're gonna roll. Are you currently working on any new projects or books right now?
Yeah, I'm working on a couple of projects. I'm working on a documentary called Jacob's Reflection, and it goes more in depth about. It's talking about the stuff that I talk about in my book, but I put it in perspective because I talk about our people as a whole. You know, the ideas, the rappers that you named and stuff. You know, King Von's and stuff like that. People are looking at these ideals and stuff like that, and we're not taking a look at ourselves in the mirror to see who we actually are. We're when you get in front of a mirror and you put your clothes on and stuff, you're trying to project this image of what you want to appear as to other
Right.
people. But who are you really? And so the core of who you really are, this is the substance. You know, so the documentary is going to expose that, and it's going to be something shocking, you know, about that. So I don't want to talk too much about that. There's another book for the definition of man, where I go into detail about how to develop the things, you know what I'm saying, that we're lacking, you know, how to complement things that you already have, you know. So, you know, I talk about that, and I do have a film. Right now it's a short film. It's called Crossroads, and I'm in the process of converting that into a full-length feature film, because the idea of it was based on my son. My son, he went to college, he got his, bachelor's, then he went on to get his master's degree. But I noticed something about him where he started to be, even with his college education, he started to become influenced by, basketball and rap, all of the things, these entertainment things. And he's looking at these things, and I'm like, no. What are you doing? You're on the right course. Don't start going that route. Stay where you at. He can rap. I'm not sure how well he plays basketball. He says good. He can rap, and I like his rap. I like his style and stuff. And but I said, you already have something. Saying this can be a foundation to launch you, and you could go ahead and you could do that. But it got to a point where now he's gotten away from even what his degree is for. And so he's not even concerned about that. And it's a heck of an accomplishment, Not a lot of people get their master's degrees, and the bachelor's alone.
You gotta say that.
So and both my sons, have their master's degrees. The other one is career oriented. He's focused on that. But the film Crossroads, I wrote it because of my son. And I, some of it is fictitious because I take it somewhere else, and the main character is younger than my son is. He hasn't reached college yet. He's just coming out of high school. But I said this is more in touch with what's going on today. With the youth, and where they're at, and who they're looking at as their role models and stuff like that. And the key word is role model. Like, what role do they actually have? Is there a gender role? Is there a role based on, where you are in your life and who you're with? So we don't talk about that stuff.
Right.
We don't talk about this stuff enough. And I wanted to put it in a way where people can look at it and be entertained, especially people that are around that age group, and say, oh, I never thought about it like that. Seeing a path, where this person, because this is a person who is intelligent, we can't assume that everybody that wants to be a rapper is not intelligent, because some rappers are very, very, very well educated.
Right.
And LL Cool J, got a college degree. And I wanted people to see, themselves in this character.
Okay. Yeah, just to piggyback, right? So like I said, I work in the foster shelters in the 2020 juvenile jails here in Cincinnati, right? So I have a PowerPoint that I put together. Basically, entertainment versus reality, right? Because, and I kind of touch on how back in early 20s, how entertainment shaped our perspective, right? How we just like sponges, we don't realize how much of a sponge we are until the lingo, and then you hear the vernacular you use start to change, and the way you act, walk, dress, etc. is based off what you didn't watch on this movie or what song you didn't heard. Right, but then you get the reality fact of it, which a lot of rappers getting today, right? When you hit that brick wall of reality,
right,
and you realize, like, okay, I'm not the next X, Y, and Z, right? I'm trying to mimic this lifestyle, but in reality, behind the scenes, they acting, right? They entertaining, right? But a lot of the youth today, when you hear they vernacular and you hear the way they speak, when you hear these kids say, "We one up on you." Right, when they talk about they ops and the killings that they do, they referring to them as if they playing Call of Duty, right? And that's what's shaping their mental, right? So that's just one of the PowerPoints that I'm touching on with the kids next week at 2020. Just I want them to understand the difference between entertainment and reality. I don't think they understand the importance of what they're looking at, right? And to be able to comprehend what they're looking at and understand that they being entertained, right? And not to take entertainment and then implement it into their real world situations. Appreciate that. Got to say that. But let's roll real quick. Cameraman said we got 20 minutes, but I got 2 questions. We out of here. Actually, I got one last question. How do you see your writing evolving in the coming years?
I have a different writing style. I think it's probably going to change a little bit because this isn't the first book that I've written. This is the third book that I've written. This is just the first one that I had published. I have other books. One of the books that I wrote was actually about the body and the effects of alcohol and other substances on the body. You know, so it's more medical and scientific. You know, it steps into different things. I think people should look at that book too, because it affects development, especially when you start doing these things and stuff. And then that development is the reason why people are behaving a certain way. You know, so I talk about that. As far as my writing, I think the way that I wrote this book, I wanted it to be entertaining, so it's kind of comical. You know, so I don't think that my writing is going to change. It just depends on what topic I'm talking about. I'm not being comical in the other books that I've written. But in this one in particular, I think it's an easy read. It's almost 300 pages, 13 chapters. I think it's 284 pages. But the way that I wrote it, it's a quick read. You know, my manager read it, you know, I think a couple of days. You know, his wife read it in a couple of days. A few other people that, you know, have read it, they read it quickly. And I was shocked, you know, because I take a while to read a book. It might, you know, take me a few weeks, because sometimes I sit and let some of that stuff sit in me. And I go, okay, I'm thinking about that, you know. But I read it myself, and it took me a couple of days.
Okay. Real quick, man, you know, we're gonna wrap it up, man. But one thing, I have a slogan that I live by, and it's the fight of life. It takes some coaching, right? And just seeing the title and hearing the breakdown of your book, man, and I would suggest any father, young man, etc., to take advantage. Go to Amazon.
You're right.
Barnes and Nobles, you said?
Yep, Barnes and Nobles and Amazon. It's up
okay. There. And once again, this plays a part in the fight of life. It takes some coaching, right? If you jump off the porch, you're a young father, and you don't have an idea where to start, I mean, you start here. Got to say that. But I appreciate you, brother. Appreciate the conversation.
No doubt.
Got to say that.
Thank you for the interview.
Y'all be easy. Yep.